there's a split emerging in the Latino community that really can have enormous implications for the Republican Party. And it's just beginning to come to light. Pew Research did a survey a few days ago where they asked Latinos in the United States, voting Latinos, do you approve or disapprove of Obama's amnesty for illegal immigrants? And everybody assumed it would be an overwhelming vote of approval. But what's interesting was that while the overall vote was about 64 approve to about 20-something disapprove among Latinos, Latinos who were born in the United States, about half of the Latino population, approved only 51 to 43. Very narrow margin. Those who were born abroad approved by 75 to 18. Obviously much more lopsided because as foreign-born they can identify with the other Latinos who have been given amnesty. Now I stress this poll was only of voters, so none of those who got the amnesty are part of the sample. But this split between native-born and foreign-born in the Latino population has enormous implications for our politics. You know, 30 or 40 years ago, Bella Abzug coined the phrase, the gender gap. And when you dug down and you looked at it, it became clear it wasn't a gap between men and women. It was a gap between married and unmarried, and in particular, unmarried women against married men, married women, and single men. And now, increasingly, we're focusing on single women as being the gap. But this makes it clear that the Latino gap is not the whole ethnic group. It's those who were born abroad. Now, first of all, in the immediate implication, this really means the Republicans have a way to get the Latino vote despite opposing Obama's immigration policies. That Latinos who are born here care much more about jobs and education and crime than they do about the fate of their countrymen who are not being given amnesty. They care about it. They support granting amnesty, although they'd like Congress to do it. And they narrowly support it when Obama did it, but not by compelling or top-heavy margins. But the long-term implications are even more important. They say that the Latinos are exactly like every other immigrant group, like the Irish Americans and the Italian Americans and the German Americans and the Jewish Americans, not like the Black Americans. But those other groups came here, voted Democrat because they were poor and they were thinking of that as the party of the poor. And then as they began to move up economically, they switched and began to vote Republican. And first were bipartisan and then increasingly moved over to the Republican side. And the question has always been, nobody doubts that the Latino population is going to be dominant in the future. Predictions are by 2030 it might break 20% of America's population. Blacks are pretty constant at 12 or 13%. They're not going up or down. But Latinos are going up. Will they be a solid, entrenched Democratic vote like the African-American vote is that never moves and never changes? Not likely. This data would indicate that the more they come to be the children of the immigrants that arrived, the people who were born here, the more American they look in their outlook and the more it becomes a two-party system that's up for grabs. But the bottom line now is that opposing immigration reform and amnesty is not a death knell for the Republican Party in its efforts to reach Latino voters. Thanks for watching.